Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Sri Tips here. And what we're going to do is get a measurement on the amount of this scrap that we've got to process here. Let's zero this out. And now we're going to add this scrap to the beaker and get a weight on it. We got 2,936 grams. 2,900. That's 40. So that's what we're going to call it. What we'll do is just add some of this until we've got an even 3,000. There we go. 3,000 grams of trimmed fingers. So now what we'll do is take another beaker, put it up here, zero it out, and I'm going to add 1,500 to this beaker. Here we go. So now I've got 1,500 grams in each of these beakers. We're going to call this beaker number 1 and call this beaker number 2. Let's get a weight on this thing. Zero it out. I'm going to weigh up this scrap here now. All right, that's 316 grams. All right, divide this by 2, and it'll be roughly 159. So let's put 159 in here. There we go, 160. And then I'll just put the rest of the scrap in here. And we should have this divided up evenly now. 5, 9. So we've got 1,659 grams of computer scrap in each of these two beakers up here. I've got two 5-liter beakers here with 1,659 grams of trimmed circuit card fingers. So we'll begin the experiment by adding some distilled water to each beaker. Now I'll measure out half a liter of nitric acid in each of these beakers. I'm going to start out by adding half of this into this into beaker number 1. And then we'll add half of this to beaker number 2. And now we'll just let these sit here and react for a while with no heat. I'm adding the rest of the nitric acid in here now to each of these beakers. so there's a half a liter in this one. And we got half a liter in that beaker as well. I've got both beakers boiling. All the fume production has ceased. So I think it's safe to conclude that the nitric acid has been consumed completely. So we're going to turn these off and let them cool down. I've allowed both of these solutions to cool completely. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pour off the waste into this filter here. That blue solution in there is just going to be mostly copper. So we're going to get rid of that now. Got all the blue liquid pulled off of here. I'm adding some more distilled water to each of these beakers. I'm going to measure out another half liter in each of these beakers of nitric acid. This will just be a waste solution from that first nitric acid treatment. So now what we'll do is add this nitric acid into our beakers again and do another nitric treatment in both of these beakers. Here we go. Let these react without any heat for a little while, and then in about a half an hour, once I'm sure that the nitric isn't going to overreact and boil up out of the beaker, I'll add some heat and we'll continue to try to dissolve out all the base metals out of these fingers in both of these beakers. I think we've got the foils loosened from the fiber board, and we're going to turn the heat off and let these things cool down. need to pour these solutions off from these fingers. I've got this flask down here that's full of copper solution. And so what we're going to do is we're going to empty this down into our waste treatment bucket down here. I've got some pieces of iron and I throw them in. And what will happen is the copper will come out of solution on those pieces of iron. So we're going to take our flask now. And pour this copper solution down into this waste treatment bucket. Copper in solution is toxic, but when we cement the copper out of this solution, the copper will come out of solution. Metallic copper is not toxic. And the iron will go into solution. Then we'll just have iron in an acidic solution. This will put out some fumes, so I'm going to set it outside under a rain cover and bubble some air through it. Got my flask emptied out. So now what we can do is I'm going to pour the waste solutions from our beakers back through this same filter and try to separate the base metals that are in these solutions from the gold foils. Reach in here and get a little of this solution on a piece of filter paper. I'm going to test this with Stannis to verify that we don't have any gold in solution. This flask is full, so what we'll have to do is swap this out with another flask. Got all the solution poured out of both of these flasks now. I've got all the solution pulled through this filter. Captured a few gold foils down inside this filter, so we'll save this and process it. The waste solution, we'll put that out in a waste treatment bucket. React that with the iron. And then the next task is to separate the gold foils from these pieces of fiberboard in both of these beakers. Here we go. We're going to add some hydrochloric acid to each of these beakers. Now we're going to try about 30 milliliters of nitric acid in each one of our beakers to see if we can get the gold foils to dissolve. I'm just going to add this right on in. Add this right on in. Gold foils will begin to dissolve immediately, and the fumes from the aqua regia should hit the pieces that aren't down in the liquid. Put this on time lapse, add some heat, let the reaction happen. Turn the heat off and let these cool down. This is our filter with a few gold foils in it. I've got a couple more here that I've collected. And what we'll do is rinse this down into this filter. Just a little bit of foils. Using hydrochloric acid to rinse it in. I'm going to add a little bit more hydrochloric acid to this. Now we're going to put some heat on it. Add some nitric acid. And that will dissolve the foils in this beaker. Got this to dissolve. We're going to shut the heat down, let this cool off. Going to gather up our gold bearing solution out of these beakers. Got a little over 3 kilos. Expecting 4 grams per kilo. Oh yeah, we got some nice stain going on in there. Nice dark stain. Rinse these off with a little hydrochloric acid. Last time we did this, I evaporated this solution down, but I'm not going to do that this time because that's when we had the gold come out of solution on us. So we're just going to go ahead and rinse these one more time. I'm going to gather that up into this main beaker right here. All the gold should be rinsed off of these now. And rinse all the excess fluid that's on here off of these fingers. I've got both of our gold solutions in ice to try to cool them off. Once we get it down, get the temperature down, we're going to go ahead and filter out the solids and collect our gold bearing solution. I've mixed up a batch of ferrous sulfate in here. I'm going to set this back out of the way. I've got the ferrous sulfate from the previous time that we used it. We use this to precipitate our gold. We'll move this out of the way and get things cleaned up in here now and get ready to filter our solutions. This is the ferrous sulfate that I just dissolved in some distilled water. I'm adding some hydrochloric acid now to turn it green. I'll set it back out of the way. It's nice and green now. Now let's filter our solution. Filtering the solutions for about an hour now. I had to set up another filter flask because this was going so slow. And now what we're going to do is get in here, get a Stannis test on on this solution that we've got in this little beaker. This was our filter. And that's a respectable amount of gold in that solution. I don't know why, but for some reason this filter is pulling faster than the big flask. So we'll go ahead and pour this dissolved filter with the foils in it into this one. See if we can get that pulled through. Here's what's left in our filter. Here's our other filter. Start filtering this ferrous sulfate solution in case we have to use it. Here's the other ferrous sulfate. We'll add that right in, but I may need to add some more. So I'm going to start filtering this right now before we get started with our precipitation. Now we're going to add the contents of our big flask. Solution's nice and clear. I'm going to add that to this big beaker here. All right, let's add this in now. Over 3 liters of liquid. Let's get one more Stannis test before we do the precipitation. That's a decent amount of gold for 3 liters. I'm expecting 12 grams from this recovery. Now we're going to pour in the ferrous sulfate. This has already been filtered from the previous time that we used it. I'm just going to go ahead and dump this right on in now. Here we go. Oh, look at that. Looks like ink. See too well, but I can tell that the solution has turned brown and that we've got some gold. Looks like coming out of solution down here on the bottom of the beaker. This is Stannis test. Let's see if we've got all the gold precipitated yet or not. Still seeing a stain, so we might better add some more ferrous sulfate. Here we go. We're going to add some more ferrous sulfate. See the gold crystals coming out of solution in there. I think what we'll do now is just go ahead and cover this up. Let it settle out completely. And go from here. I've allowed this to settle overnight. So now we're going to get in here and get a quick Stannis test just to make sure that we've got all of the metal precipitated. we can safely conclude that all of the gold has been precipitated out of this solution now. Now what we're going to do is filter the gold out of here from the waste solution. This is pulling through this filter very quickly. And if you look down here at the bottom, that's a healthy amount of gold, but it always looks like that it's more than it is in the beaker. But that's looking pretty promising right there. Okay, here's our gold down in the bottom of this beaker. Looking good. What I'm gonna have to do is trade these flasks. This one's full down here now. So what I'll do is put up a new flask to complete the recovery of our gold. Rinse the gold down into this filter. Let's get our gold that's in this filter. That's it. Pretty good. We're going to put it down inside this beaker, the one we just filtered it off from. Adding some hydrochloric acid, just enough to cover the filter in the bottom of that beaker, maybe 200 milliliters. I'm going to add a little bit of sulfuric acid, and this will take care of any lead that may be present. About 1 milliliter. I'm going to cover this up and set it up on the heat, and add a little bit of heat. Got some nitric acid. I'm going to add about 3 milliliters and redissolve the gold a second time. We'll put this on time lapse. Here we go. This took longer than I expected to get all this gold to dissolve. And I've been picking it up and looking underneath, and I don't see any more gold. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and pull this down off the heat and let this cool down. Are ready to rock and roll. Get a Stannis test. Alright, let's see what we got here. There we go. We got a nice dark stain, indicating we've got a decent concentration of gold in our solution. We're going to add some sodium metabisulfite and precipitate out the pure gold. Let's get a close in on this. Here we go. We're going to put our first spoon of sodium metabisulfite in right now. Should only take a couple spoons, but here we go. Number one. SMB. That should pretty much do it for us. Let's get another status test, verify that we've got all the gold precipitated. You can see we've still got some gold. And another half spoon of SMB, and that should be enough to get the rest of that gold to come out of solution. Now we've got it all out of solution. It settled out pretty quickly. It's got a little yellow tint to it, and I believe that's probably due to some iron from the ferrous sulfate. We're going to pour off this waste solution. Give this a couple rinses with some distilled water. That's settling out nice too. I don't know if that's going to be 12 grams. Now we'll put some hydrochloric acid in here. Set this up on the heat and give it a boil with some hydrochloric acid. I'm going to pour off this solution now, this hydrochloric acid. Wow, look at that, man. It looks beautiful. Gold looks down in the beaker. Look at that, man. Beautiful. Beautiful. Pure gold powder. Someone had asked about these covers. I buy these at the thrift store. They're for oil warmers. You put a candle or some heat source down here, put some oil in it, puts a fragrance out, and they are perfect for reflux covers for my gold refining jars here. I'm adding a little bit of hydrochloric acid. I'm going to set this back up on the heat up here and dissolve this a second time. Add a few drops of sulfuric acid just in case we got any lead in there. Got some nitric acid. I'm going to put it on time lapse. We're going to redissolve this gold. Got everything to dissolve. Let's pull this down off the heat and let it cool off. teaspoons of SMB. Now let's make it 4, just to be on the safe side. And add some distilled water to dissolve our SMB. And some distilled water. SMB is highly soluble in water, so that didn't take long to dissolve. Let's go ahead. I'm going to add the SMB now directly into the filter sitting over the top of this gold. Precipitate out the gold. Here we go. Pretty sure we got all this gold out of solution now. Let's get a status test. Make sure we've got all this gold precipitated. There you can see by the negative status test, all the gold has come out of solution now. Okay, here's our prize. I don't know if that's going to be 12 grams or not. Let's get rid of this waste solution. Let's add some hydrochloric acid. Put this up on the heat and boil it in a little hydrochloric acid for a few minutes. Let's pull this down off the heat now and let it cool off. Time to rinse this off with a little bit of water. Down inside the beaker. Let's get our gold in the melt dish. So I'm going to take the gold over and melt it. Here's our little go button that we just melted. Man, that thing looks good. I can see a bright reflection in it, just like a mirror. All right, moment of truth here. We were expecting 12 grams. All right, 11.3. That's pretty close. I'm going to call it 11.3 grams. And what we'll do is we'll offer this for sale on my eBay site. And this is the end of the computer scrap video series. It's all gone now. It's all been processed. This is our last piece from that. So I'd like to thank everyone for watching.